Thank you.
Resuming debate, the honourable member for Peterborough-Court.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Hope. It is the glue that holds you together and allows you to go on when you think you can't. It is a powerful force that has carried humans through the worst of times. But in order to have hope, you must face reality. You must acknowledge the truth. I ask everyone at home, are you happy with the cost of living? Are you happy with the rise of crime? Are you happy with the homelessness crisis? Are you happy with the addiction crisis? Are you happy with our country? The truth is, the government, which currently is the Liberal NDP coalition, cannot give you anything they have not taken away from you. This government does not have any money. They have your hard-earned money, and every dollar they spend is your dollar earned. The most important piece of legislation that is voted on in this House is the budget, which we are debating today, Madam Speaker. The budget tells Canadians where the priorities of the government are. The budget determines the future of our children and our grandchildren. This Liberal NDP coalition has doubled government spending, and yet nothing in this country is twice as good. In fact, it is twice as bad. Housing prices have doubled, rent has doubled, and healthcare wait times for treatment have doubled. The overdose rate in this country is 300% higher than when this Prime Minister took office. 22 people a day are dying in this country from overdoses. Do you know how much money is allocated in this Liberal budget for treatment and recovery? None. This Liberal Prime Minister continues to fund people to stay stuck where they are in their disease of addiction, rather than funding off-ramps to help them break free. Remember that 2021 election promise of $4.5 billion in a mental health transfer? Well, they must have forgotten about it, because it's nowhere to be found in this Liberal NDP budget. The truth is, Canadians are suffering. There are many Canadians who make good money, almost $100,000 a year, and yet it is these same people, full-time jobs, that are relying on food banks. Food banks across this country are reporting record high usage, the highest in history. We are a G7 country, and middle-class Canadians are relying on food banks. So you can imagine how awful life must be for our most vulnerable, including seniors on fixed incomes. Albert from my riding is a widowed senior on a fixed income. His gas bill tripled with the carbon tax, and he is angry and scared. How does this Prime Minister expect Albert to pay his bills? People are suffering in a way that many have never experienced. Innocent people are being stabbed in broad daylight while onlookers video it. Because under this Prime Minister, there are no consequences in this country. Our bail system is broken, and there is nothing in this budget to fix it. In a cost of living crisis, we have forced women out of choice. The choice to go back to work because they cannot access childcare. Ah, yes, the Liberals will tell you their $10 a day childcare has saved the nation. Well, I can tell you with certainty the detail the Liberals left out is only a select few can access it. This is another classic winner and losers Liberal bill. There are thousands of families left out because there are no spaces and no labour strategy to help with the labour shortage. Women can't go to work because they cannot access childcare, and the wait lists are years long. One female childcare operator wrote on a public forum just this morning, and I quote, "Why are so many childcare providers closing? Well, I just filed my taxes. 56% of incoming funds went directly back into my program. They're closing because they can't afford to stay open." Another anti-feminism Liberal bill. 9 out of 10 young people have given up the dream of ever owning a home. Many young people say they will never start a family because they don't think they can afford to bring a child into this world. People are applying for medical assistance and dying because they can't afford rent or food. Seniors are freezing because they can't afford to turn on the heat. There is no accountability, there is no transparency, and it has eroded trust in our government and leaders. What is happening? How did we get here? And more importantly, how do we get out of this? We need hope, but we need to face the facts to change the facts, Madam Speaker. And it's time to acknowledge that what the Liberals are doing, what the Liberals have been doing, is not working. This Liberal government is so far down a rabbit hole they don't know how to get out. Instead of acknowledging the suffering they have created, they double down on their failed policies. Every day in this House of Commons during question period, a Liberal MP or minister tells Canadians how great things are, what a great job they're doing, and it is simply insulting to Canadians who are barely getting by. And the NDP are just as guilty. They too have failed to acknowledge their coalition is not helping Canadians, it is hurting them. Social programs rely on a healthy economy in order to secure sustainable funding. When a government runs up the highest ever debt, yes, this Prime Minister has accumulated more debt than all other Prime Ministers combined. Canada's debt is $1.18 trillion. That's a pretty tough number to imagine, Madam Speaker. $44 billion is spent on interest. So just for comparison, the government spends $24 billion on EI and $25 billion on the Canada Child Benefit. That means, and listen to this point, the Liberal government spends almost double the amount servicing their debt than supporting social programs to support Canadians. This Liberal government is hurting Canadians, and they have no intention of stopping. It is important to try different approaches, but it is also important to recognize when those approaches are not working. We tried safe drug supply, and more people are dying and living on the street. We tried spending more, and now life is unaffordable. We tried to be soft on crime, and now violent crime is almost up 40% under this Trudeau government. We tried...
The honourable member knows that the honourable member can't use names of current members of parliament.
Speaker, under this Prime Minister, it took me a minute. I was thinking of you, Mr. Thank you. No. We tried to decriminalize drugs, and addiction has skyrocketed, and there is zero money allocated in the 2023 budget for treatment and recovery. But there is more money allocated for more hard drugs. We tried to tax carbon, and it is costing Canadians thousands of dollars and crippling our food makers, our farmers. We tried to save everyone by saying nice things and not following through, and the results are catastrophic. It is not working, Madam Speaker. Enough is enough. We need to stop doing the same thing and expecting different results. We must stop telling people what they want to hear and tell them the facts. We must give people hope. Everything has an expiration date, and this Liberal government has far exceeded theirs. We need to change course, and we can. We need honest, accountable leadership that puts people and fiscal responsibility first. We need to show Canada that everyone is important. We need to show Canada that we don't need divisive labels to separate people. It doesn't matter your gender, your age, your ethnicity, or religion. We are all Canadian, and we all deserve to be free from a government that believes they know best. Canadians are smart, and they do not need a government telling them how or where to spend their money or what media to watch. They don't need a government clawing back their hard-earned paychecks with nonsensical taxes. It is time for a government that evolves with the people, but more importantly, works for the people, and working for the people means listening to the people, and the people have spoken. They are hungry, afraid, and in need of housing. Conservatives can fix this. It will take time and patience, but we have the facts, which brings us a plan, and a plan brings hope. We are here for you, and that means fighting every day to reveal the hard facts of what is not working and putting forth solutions to bring the people together. And the first solution is to ask the members in this House to face the facts and vote this terrible budget down. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Mesdames et messieurs, questions and comments. The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Health.
Thanks very much, Madam Speaker. I have a quote for the member opposite. As she knows, I've spent considerable time in her riding of Peterborough-Kawartha. And this quote is as follows. Safer supply is what's giving us hope. This is a quote from Peterborough Currents, an organization that provides harm reduction for many of her constituents who suffer from addiction. Participants in this Safer Supply pilot program in downtown Peterborough continue to receive prescription opioids for as long as they need them because of investments that we've made to support people through the process of ending their addiction and saving their lives. Now, I know that there are many different ways and many different opinions in this House of Commons, but there is only one evidence-based approach, and I'd like to hear comments from the member opposite on, what would she say to her constituents in Peterborough, this life-saving remedy.
Honourable Member for Peterborough-Kawartha.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And I've been very vocal in my community of Peterborough-Kawartha. Safe Supply and our consumption treatment service has been very helpful, and I've advocated for them and worked with the Minister of Health through our MSORT funding. The problem with this budget, as I said in my speech, is there is no off-ramp. So the member opposite actually misled this House by saying that the Safe Supply has stopped their addiction. That's untrue. It is life-saving. It is important to build relationships. What the problem is in this budget, there is no off-ramp for treatment and recovery. There's no money for transitional housing with wraparound supports. There's no money allocated to help people break free from the disease, only to keep them stuck in the merry-go-round that is actually hurting our ERs as well. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Questions et commentaires, l'honorable député de...
The Honourable Member for Repentigny. Thank you, Madam Speaker. In her speech, my colleague said at a certain point that everything has stopped working here in Canada. Here in the Bloc Québécois, we also find that this government isn't making any progress. It could do a lot better to help people. Let me give an example. This government launched 2 consultations on agriculture, even though there are already 2 bills that have recently come out of committee. So why more consultations? And then another consultation, the other one that I mentioned, it says it wants to consult provincial and territorial governments to help agricultural producers who have urgent financial needs. So then why yet another consultation when the government just negotiated the Strategic Agricultural Partnership? What would my colleague say about this? The fact that it seems like it's 2 steps forward, 3 steps back. I let her tell us what she thinks about this kind of attitude from the government.
Honourable Member for Peterborough-Kawartha.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you to my colleague from the bloc for that question. She hit the nail on the head. This place is extremely frustrating. Let's have a meeting about a meeting and make a subcommittee about a subcommittee about facts we already have. And, these reports and these consultations just reinforce what needs to be done. And it is just infuriating to waste taxpayers' money on inaction when there are things we know what need to be fixed, and they're not doing anything about it. They just continue to have more meetings, more consultations, and wasting more taxpayers' money. We need more action and less talk. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Questions and comments. The Honourable Member for Victoria.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and I want to thank the member for her speech. I wanted to ask about the idea of an excess profit tax, because the member spoke about some of the struggles that Canadians are facing, about the high cost of living. We also know that, grocery store chains, big oil and gas companies have been gouging Canadians. And one way to address that is to put in place an excess profits tax that would disincentivize that kind of price gouging. The Liberals have been unwilling to tackle corporate greed. The Conservatives don't seem to be talking about corporate greed and the role it has in inflation and the rising cost of living. So I'm curious about the member's opinion on this.
Honourable Member for Peterborough-Kawartha.
Thank you so much to my colleague for that question. And I'm just searching here because I was actually going to put this in my speech because it's a really interesting meeting that I had recently with the not-for-profits and charities across the country. They are a critical industry, and they serve 1 in 10 jobs, and it's an alternative minimum tax that's actually been raised in this budget, and it's going to have catastrophic consequences because what it's doing is it's de-incentivizing. So many of the not-for-profits and charities rely on corporations and private donors to meet their fundraising goals, and this alternative minimum tax is actually, the way that it's written in the budget, it's going to de-incentivize them, which is going to cripple these not-for-profits and charities, which are primarily, I believe it's 70% women in that business. Thank you.
Resuming debate, the Honourable